What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khamzat Chimaev to Nate Diaz. I'm going to show you who's the gangster. Nate Diaz entered the UFC in 2007, and while plying his trade against the best of the best in cage fighting, Khamzat Chimaev was still in school. Now, with Khamzat entrenched as one of the top contenders at 170 pounds and poised for a potential title shot in the near future, he's set to fight a legend in the sport whom he watched growing up. This fight with Nate Diaz, set up for UFC 279 on September 10th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, it will be Khamzat's 6th fight in the UFC. Meanwhile, Diaz had been looking to book this last fight on his contract for about a year now, but it's now against one of the top guys in the world. Case in point, this is what Khamzat stated to Ariel Helwani while on the MMA Hour this week.
For me, it actually doesn't matter. If they will give me Kamaru Usman, I will do the same thing, but for me, it doesn't matter. The guys just fight, he's still dangerous, he's like, he fight the last second. And I'm happy he's fighting with me. He's one of the legends, like one of the speaking, everyone's speaking like gangster. Now I'm gonna show who's the gangsters,
Right now, the consensus around the MMA world is that Nate Diaz is being fed to the wolves in this fight, just a month before his contract was set to expire in October. The UFC is certainly not going to give Diaz an easy out here, as Khamzat is clearly one of the best young guns at welterweight and has really shown he can fight with the best of them. For Khamzat, it's not hard to be confident, given that he's beaten people with just a single punch before and has terrorized the welterweight division for the most part. What do you think about Khamzat's comments regarding Nate Diaz here? Paddy the Baddy explains Twitter suspension. In the lead-up to his UFC London fight last weekend against Jordan Levitt, Twitter suspended the account of Paddy Pimblett. It was a big week for Paddy, who was fighting for the second time this year in front of his countrymen at the O2 Arena in London and entering his 3rd fight in the UFC. His star is only going up, and in the midst of it all, one of the biggest social media platforms suspended his account. He hasn't exactly been politically correct with his words all the time, but there wasn't any clear indication of anything he stated recently that would get him banned temporarily, save for some comments he made about the country of Georgia, but that wasn't recent. Now, after his UFC London fight, following his submission victory over Levitt in the 2nd round via rear naked choke, Pimblett was asked what happened that Twitter suspended his account. This is what Paddy the Baddy stated about that.
I don't even know why now. I'm thinking, what did they say? Because my first account got suspended and now they've only just realised that at the UFC baddie is me. How? Know what I mean? What spaceman runs your internet website? Know what I mean? Your social media thing? Elon Musk. Buy Twitter, lad, and let's box this.
In November last year, his previous account was also suspended, and he called employees of Twitter lizards while on Instagram. It's not clear how long his latest Twitter suspension will last, though. What do you think about Paddy's explanation here? Sean O'Malley mentions Aljamain Sterling and says he owes him pay-per-view money for UFC 280. The UFC 280 card on October 22nd in Abu Dhabi is looking absolutely stacked. Not only is Charles Oliveira going to take on Islam Makhachev for the 155-pound title, but there's also the Aljamain Sterling vs. TJ Dillashaw fight for the bantamweight belt, and the surprising yet exciting matchup between 135-pounders Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley. This is going to be O'Malley's toughest fight so far, by far, as we certainly didn't expect him to take such a big jump in competition right after fighting Pedro Munoz to a no contest earlier this month. O'Malley is on a 3-fight win streak, excluding the no contest, and he's been able to finish most of his opponents with his elite level striking, though most of his opponents were not ranked in the top 10. In Peter Yan, O'Malley will be taking on a former bantamweight champion who has beaten the likes of Jose Aldo, Corey Sandhagen, and John Dodson. He's still ranked as the number 1 bantamweight. Heck, he's even ranked number 13 on the UFC pound for pound list. There's nothing easy about this fight, but O'Malley is relishing how interesting this matchup is. In fact, he believes that there's so much intrigue in this pay-per-view on account of the Yan-O'Malley fight that Aljamain Sterling, presumably the only guy getting pay-per-view points for this event because he's defending his title, should give him 50% of that money just for all the revenue that will be generated because of the non-title bantamweight bout. Case in point, this is what O'Malley stated in a recent video on his YouTube channel.
I think this is going to be the first time Aljo gets pay-per-view points because he's defending his belt.
Okay.
Which is absolutely He owes me like 50% of those.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
The UFC basically said when they announced my fight, they seen the interaction and the engagement of socials and everything just went poof.
Really?
Oh yeah. My fight was the most hype fight on that card.
Sugar Sean goes on to say that Yan told him to call him out if he would beat Munoz. While that fight ended in a pretty anticlimactic manner, owing to some eye pokes, O'Malley did indicate that both he and Yan wanted this fight. What do you make of O'Malley's statements here? And do you think the Yan-O'Malley fight will go the distance? Who's your early favorite to win this fight in October? Michael Chandler says only haters are criticizing Paddy Pimblett. Despite both fighters being rivals on paper, as they are in the lightweight division, Michael Chandler only sees good things from Paddy the Baddy. During the UFC London guest fighter press conference, Michael Chandler fielded a ton of questions, and a few had to do with the UFC's up-and-coming British lightweight, a brash young man who loves to gorge himself and have some fun with the cameras. There's a ton of excitement surrounding Paddy, and not just because of the way he fights. Chandler seems to be an admirer and gives Paddy a lot of props for being able to market himself seemingly the right way, and also to bring a ton to the table that any other fighter opposite of him would also benefit from. Case in point, this is what Chandler stated about Pimblett during the UFC London guest fighter press conference.
He's a marketable guy. He's a happy guy. He's a fun guy. He's fun to watch. He's fun on the microphone. He's the total package. And people can hate on him all they want, but really they're just being haters because Paddy Pimblett's the total package. But can he put it together inside the octagon within the bells and continue to keep winning? We'll see.
At the moment, there are detractors of Pimblett who say that his brash personality rubs them the wrong way. But while Paddy has been very outspoken, he's also been able to deliver results in the cage and has 3 straight finishes in the UFC for his efforts, including 2 submission victories in his 2 most recent outings. Michael Chandler goes on to say that he doesn't have a scarcity mindset and that for him, Paddy, in a year from now, will be nipping at his heels because Chandler says he's going to be the champion in the next 12 months and he's knocking on the title shot door, according to him. What do you make of Chandler's comments here regarding Paddy the Baddy?
Yeah, Dana, are you worried now that your gift of $250,000 got out to the Note Boys that's kind of like your floor when it comes to birthday gifts?
My
now
birthday was in May, dude.
You know what? I'm glad you asked me that question. Let me set this record straight. First of all these people on the internet, go yourself. Okay? I want to spend my money. Mind your own business, number one. Number two, if you look at what Kyle and the Nelk Boys have done as far as Howlerhead and a lot of other things that they've done, those kids have never asked me for anything, ever. Never asked me for anything. And they couldn't be better people. Kyle has done so many things for me. And believe me, the $250,000 that I gave him for his birthday does not cover the amount of things that kid has done for me.
That's awesome.
So don't count other people's money and mind your own business.
Bad training camp was a big reason she lost to Julianna Pena, says Amanda Nunes. July 30th is when we'll finally see the rematch between undisputed UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Julianna Pena and former longtime champion Amanda Nunes. Pena was a heavy underdog when the two met at UFC 269 in December of last year. In fact, Nunes did seem to get the better of Pena in the first round, but Pena turned it up several notches in the second, submitting Nunes with a choke and becoming the undisputed champion and perhaps the biggest underdog victory of all time in the UFC. It was such an improbable win that the UFC has put both women as coaches of The Ultimate Fighter. The rematch is now set for UFC 277 this upcoming weekend, and Nunes is answering a lot of questions about what led to her historic loss last December. She believes that it had to do with horrible preparation, and despite all the bad things that happened in that camp leading up to that fight, she still went through with the fight. Case in point, this is what Nunes stated in a recent interview with Laura Sanko.
Things was happening in the camp that was telling me maybe if UFC wanna put an interim belt to make the division go, you should let it and then get 100% and then jump in again. But I decided to step in the cage that night. But yeah, I feel I was pretty bad in that camp.
Nunes went on to state that the camp took place right after she had COVID, and she had trouble breathing at times. She would feel absolutely sick at times, and even had some problems with her knees during the camp. Later on, Nunes credits the fact that she moved to her own facility, having left her longtime MMA home of American Top Team, as one of the best decisions she's made for her career. We'll get to see how much the change has affected her on July 30th when she finally takes on Pena once again. What do you think of Nunes' comments regarding her training camp prior to the first Julianna Pena fight? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.